I was a 32-year-old software engineer living in a modest apartment despite making good money. For years, I had been financially supporting my family, paying their mortgage, college tuition, and car payments. Meanwhile, they mocked my frugal lifestyle, calling me cheap and stingy. The irony was painful. They drove luxury cars and wore designer clothes purchased with my money, while making fun of my sensible choices. Everything changed when I discovered their expensive purchases while they claimed to be struggling. I had enough. Before I tell you how I finally stood up for myself after years of being taken advantage of, let me know where you are watching from in the comments, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had to make a difficult decision with family. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, my childhood was pretty standard middle-class American. My dad worked at a local lumber company, and my mom was a part-time receptionist at a dental office. We never had excessive luxuries, but we never went without necessities either. That all changed when I was 15. The lumber company downsized, and my father was among the first to be let go after 20 years of service. His termination package was minimal, and finding new employment at his age proved nearly impossible. I watched my parents struggle to maintain our lifestyle while their savings rapidly depleted. The tension at home was palpable. My mom picked up extra shifts, but it was not enough to cover our mortgage, utilities, and daily expenses. As the oldest child, I felt responsible for helping. While still in high school, I started working weekends at a local grocery store, handing over most of my paycheck to my parents. My younger siblings, Amanda and Tyler, were 12 and 13 at the time, too young to contribute financially. Through determination and countless sleepless nights, I maintained good grades while working nearly 30 hours a week. This dedication earned me a partial scholarship to Oregon State University, where I majored in computer science. College was a brutal balancing act. I took maximum credit hours each semester while working at the campus IT help desk and doing freelance website development on weekends. Every month, I would send at least $200 home to help my parents keep afloat. The grueling schedule paid off when I landed my first real tech job at age 24, earning $85,000 annually. I could hardly believe the number when I received the offer letter. It was more money than my parents had ever made combined. The first thing I did after signing my contract was drive to my parents' house to share the news. I will never forget the look of relief on my mother's face when I told her I would be handling their $1,500 mortgage payment each month. She cried, hugging me tightly, whispering thank you over and over. My father, always more reserved with his emotions, simply clasped my shoulder with tears in his eyes. That moment made all the hard work worth it. Within 6 months of starting my new job, I had set up automatic payments for my parents' mortgage and utilities, totaling about $2,000 monthly. I also committed to covering my sister Amanda's college tuition at Portland Community College, which came to roughly $15,000 per year. My brother Tyler had struggled finding direction after high school, bouncing between part-time jobs. When he finally expressed interest in becoming a dental hygienist, I helped him purchase a reliable used Honda and covered his $450 monthly car payment and insurance so he could focus on his studies. Despite my substantial income, I continued living frugally. I rented a small one-bedroom apartment in a modest neighborhood, drove my 10-year-old Toyota Corolla, and rarely ate at expensive restaurants. Every dollar saved meant more security for my family and myself. I had witnessed firsthand how quickly financial stability could vanish, and that fear stayed with me. The first year of supporting my family was deeply satisfying. Their gratitude made the sacrifices worthwhile. My parents would invite me for home-cooked meals and always sent me home with leftovers. Amanda would call regularly to update me on her classes and thank me for the opportunity. Tyler would offer to wash my car or help with odd jobs around my apartment. Gradually, though, the dynamic began to shift. The heartfelt thank yous became less frequent. Invitations to family dinners came with expectations that I would bring dessert or wine. The leftovers stopped. Phone calls from my siblings increasingly centered around additional financial needs rather than genuine connection. What had started as emergency assistance was transforming into expected support, but I brushed aside my discomfort. They were my family after all, and I was in a position to help. The turning point came during Thanksgiving 2 years ago. I arrived at my parents' house with a homemade apple pie and a bottle of sparkling cider. The moment I walked through the door, I noticed something different. The living room featured a brand new sectional sofa that easily cost several $1,000s replacing the perfectly functional one I had sat on just months earlier. A 75-inch smart TV dominated the wall where a modest 42-inch had previously hung. When I casually asked about the new furniture, my mother waved dismissively. We needed to replace some things around here. The old stuff was falling apart. Her tone suggested I was rude for even asking, though I was quite certain I had been sitting on that old couch just last month without any issues. As I helped prepare dinner, my brother Tyler arrived. Through the kitchen window, I watched him park a brand new Audi sports car in the driveway, right next to my weathered Corolla. This was definitely not the Honda I was making payments on. When he sauntered in wearing designer jeans and a leather jacket, I felt a twinge of confusion. How could he afford such luxuries while studying and working part-time? My sister Amanda arrived last laden with shopping bags from high-end stores. She excitedly showed off her new MacBook Pro and collection of designer clothes, explaining she needed them for her personal brand as she pursued an influencer career alongside her studies. I nodded politely, mentally calculating the thousands these items must have cost while I was struggling to cover her tuition payments that had mysteriously increased that semester. During dinner, the conversation flowed around recent purchases and upcoming shopping plans. When I mentioned I was considering replacing my aging Toyota, the table fell momentarily silent before erupting in thinly veiled mockery. You would think with your fancy tech job you could afford nicer things, my father commented, sipping from an expensive whiskey I did not remember him enjoying before. Tyler snorted. My little brother, the cheapskate millionaire. Seriously, dude, what is the point of making all that money if you live like you are broke? Amanda chimed in. People at school think I am making it up when I tell them my brother works in tech because of that car you drive. I felt heat rising in my face as I looked around at my family, enjoying the comfort my financial sacrifices provided while simultaneously ridiculing me for my prudent choices. The worst part was, I was far from a millionaire. Between supporting them and building my own emergency fund, I had little left for extravagances. The following weekend, I met my best friend Jackson for beers. As I recounted the Thanksgiving experience, his expression grew increasingly troubled. Greg, do you realize how much money you are giving your family? He asked bluntly. I had never calculated the total, so we did the math together on a napkin. Mortgage and utilities for my parents $2,000 monthly. Amanda's tuition and expenses around $1,600 monthly. Tyler's car and insurance plus random requests about $700 monthly. The total was staggering over $43,000 annually, more than half my after-tax income. Dude, they are taking advantage of you, Jackson said, looking me straight in the eyes. And they have the nerve to mock you for not having nicer things. That is messed up. His words stung because I knew they contained truth. Still, these were the people who had raised me, who had sacrificed for me during my childhood. How could I just cut them off? Over the following weeks, I tried having serious conversations with my parents about finances. I gently suggested a plan for them to gradually take over their mortgage payments, as I wanted to start saving for my own home. Their response left me speechless. After all we have done for you growing up, my mother said, her voice trembling with practiced emotion. We gave you everything, and now that we are finally enjoying a little comfort, you want to take it away. My father was more direct. We supported you for 18 years. You have supported us for what, 3? That is not even close to paying us back for raising you. Their words revealed a transactional view of our relationship that broke something in me. Still, I retreated, apologizing for bringing it up. Meanwhile, the financial demands increased. Tyler needed money for certification exams. Amanda wanted to study abroad for a semester. My parents' kitchen appliances suddenly all needed upgrading. Each request came with the implication that declining would make me selfish and stingy. The guilt was effective, and I continued writing checks while living on a fraction of what I earned. The situation escalated dramatically when Amanda announced her engagement to a guy she had been dating for just 4 months. Over family dinner, she outlined her plans for a $30,000 wedding, looking at me expectantly when discussing finances. Greg will help, of course, my mother stated matter-of-factly. He has always been so generous with his little sister. I smiled, uncomfortably caught off guard by the assumption. Before I could respond, Tyler interrupted with his own news. He had been laid off from his part-time job but assured everyone it was fine because he wanted to focus on his studies anyway. The unspoken implication hung in the air I would cover any additional expenses. As dinner continued, my parents enthusiastically described their upcoming 3-week European vacation. When I expressed surprise given their supposed financial situation, my father clapped me on the back. "We have worked hard all our lives, son. We deserve to enjoy ourselves a little. The mortgage payment will be a bit late next month with all these travel expenses, but you can handle that, right?" The following weekend, I arrived at another family gathering in a new car. After driving my old Toyota for 12 years, I had finally purchased a new Honda Civic. It was nothing flashy, but it was reliable, good on gas, and within my budget. I was proud of this sensible purchase. The reaction from my family was immediate and harsh. "You finally got a new car, and that is what you chose." Tyler laughed, jingling his Audi keys. "Man, with your salary, you could have gotten something that actually turns heads." Amanda snapped photos, giggling. "I have got to show my friends this. They will not believe my brother in tech drives such an economy car." Even my father seemed disappointed. "Son, you work so hard. You should reward yourself with something nicer than that." Their comments stung, but what truly hurt was realizing none of them had connected the dots. The reason I could not afford a luxury vehicle was because I was subsidizing their lifestyles. As I sat silently absorbing their mockery, my phone buzzed with a notification. A distant cousin had tagged me in a comment on social media. Curious, I opened the app to find a heated discussion under one of Amanda's posts, showcasing her recent shopping spree. My cousin had written, "How can you afford all this designer stuff as a student?" When someone else responded that Amanda's brother was generous, my sister had replied, "Greg, no, he is super stingy with his money. You should see how he lives despite his big tech salary. Total cheapskate." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. While publicly mocking me for being frugal, she was happily spending the money I provided. I excused myself and left early, driving home in a daze of hurt and confusion. The final revelation came a week later when I stopped by my parents' house to help my father with some computer issues. While they prepared lunch, I sat at their desktop computer, fixing their email problems. A browser window was minimized, and when I accidentally clicked it, their credit card statement appeared on screen. What I saw shook me to my core. Thousands spent at luxury retailers, hundreds at high-end restaurants, wine club memberships, spa treatments, all while claiming they could barely make ends meet without my help. The statement showed a minimum payment that was less than 10% of what I gave them monthly. They were not just getting by with my assistance. They were living lavishly. That night, I received a drunken text from Tyler after a party. "Why earn good money if you live like you are broke? Life is short, bro. Stop being so pathetic with your money." The next morning, scrolling through social media, I saw Amanda had posted a photo mockingly comparing my modest apartment to her lavishly decorated student housing with the caption, "When your brother makes 6 figures but lives like this." The comments were filled with laughing emojis and jokes at my expense. The final straw came when I learned through a family friend that my parents had taken a weekend getaway with my siblings to a luxury coastal resort. I had not been invited. When they returned, my mother called to ask if I could transfer some extra money because the trip had been more expensive than anticipated. Something in me snapped. I drove to my parents' house and confronted all of them together. I laid out exactly how much I had been giving each of them monthly and asked why, if they needed my money so desperately they could afford luxury cars, designer clothes, and vacations. The responses were telling. No one denied anything. Instead, they justified. "You make so much money, it is not a big deal for you," Amanda shrugged. "You do not have a family to support, so what else would you spend it on?" My mother reasoned. "You should be happy you can help us live comfortably," my father added. Tyler was the most honest. "You are such a pushover, Greg. Of course we are going to take what you offer." Their lack of remorse, the entitled attitudes, the realization that I was viewed not as a person with my own needs and goals, but as a bottomless ATM broke something fundamental in me. I walked out without another word, sat in my car, and for the first time since my teen years, I cried from the sheer betrayal of it all. The next morning, I called in sick to work and made an appointment with a financial advisor. I brought all my records of payments to my family over the years. Her eyes widened as she reviewed the documents. "Mr. Walker, you have been extraordinarily generous," she said carefully. "But this level of support is not sustainable and appears to be enabling dependency rather than helping your family become financially independent." Together, we created an exit strategy. I would gradually reduce financial support over 3 months, giving my family time to adjust their lifestyles and find alternative income sources. The advisor also helped me draft a clear, firm, but compassionate letter explaining my decision. That evening, I emailed the letter to each family member. I explained that I loved them deeply but could no longer continue the current financial arrangements. I detailed how much I had provided over the years and expressed hurt at being mocked for my frugality while they enjoyed luxuries purchased with my money. I offered to help them create budgets and find additional income sources during the transition, but made it clear that the changes were non-negotiable. The responses were predictable. My mother called in tears, saying I was abandoning them. My father sent a terse message about ungrateful children. Amanda left a voicemail screaming that I was ruining her wedding plans. Tyler simply texted, "You will cave like you always do." They were wrong. The next day, I began the systematic process of financial separation. I removed my automatic payments from their mortgage account. I called Amanda's university and withdrew as her financial sponsor. I contacted Tyler's auto lender and informed them I would no longer be making payments on his behalf. I canceled the additional credit cards I had provided for emergencies. With each call, I felt simultaneous guilt and relief. The real fallout began the following month when my parents' mortgage payment bounced. My mother called hysterical, claiming they would lose the house. I calmly reminded her that my father's Social Security and her part-time job provided enough income to cover their essential bills if they budgeted properly. I offered to help them create that budget but would not be sending more money. Amanda was next, panicking about her tuition bill. I suggested she apply for financial aid and look into part-time work, just as I had done during college. Her response was to block me on all social media platforms. Tyler's car was repossessed 2 weeks after I stopped making payments. He showed up at my apartment, alternating between rage and bargaining. When neither worked, he resorted to guilt, reminding me of times he had stood up for me during childhood. I remained firm, suggesting he look into public transportation and more affordable vehicles within his own budget. The most difficult moment came when my parents called a family meeting to discuss the situation. I arrived to find not only my immediate family but also aunts, uncles, and cousins. It had been framed as an intervention for my suddenly selfish behavior. For 2 hours, I sat quietly as relatives who had no idea about my years of financial support criticized my decision to cut off my struggling family. Finally, when everyone had spoken, I pulled out my documented records of every payment I had made over the last 4 years, totaling more than $150,000. I shared screenshots of my siblings, social media posts mocking me while spending my money. I revealed credit card statements showing luxury purchases made while claiming poverty. The room fell silent. Some relatives left embarrassed by their mistaken assumptions. Others stayed asking questions and gradually understanding my position. My immediate family sat in stunned silence, perhaps realizing for the first time how their actions appeared to others. In the aftermath, I experienced a difficult period of minimal contact with my family. The guilt was crushing at times. I would lie awake wondering if I had done the right thing. Had I been too harsh, too abrupt? Should I have found a middle ground? During this period of doubt, I reconnected with my childhood friend Michael, who had experienced similar family dynamics. His validation was crucial to my healing process. "You did not just do what was right for you," he told me one evening. "You did what was ultimately right for them too. Real love does not enable harmful patterns." His words encouraged me to seek professional help. The therapist I found specialized in family dynamics and financial abuse. Through our sessions, I came to understand that my generosity had crossed into unhealthy territory, enabling my family's financial irresponsibility and fostering their sense of entitlement. With newfound clarity, I joined an online community focused on financial independence. Reading stories from others who had navigated similar situations provided both comfort and practical advice. For the first time in years, I began to think about my own financial future, rather than just surviving while supporting everyone else. The money that had previously gone to my family now went toward building the life I wanted. I moved to a nicer 2-bedroom apartment in a better neighborhood. I started properly funding my retirement accounts. I even took my first real vacation in years, a solo road trip through several national parks that gave me time to reflect and heal. After 3 months of minimal contact, my mother called. Her tone was different, humbled. They had been forced to downsize, selling many luxury items and considering putting the house on the market for something more affordable. My father had taken a part-time job at a hardware store. For the first time, she did not ask for money. Instead, she apologized. Not long after I heard from Amanda. Her wedding had been postponed, and she had taken a job as a barista between classes. She admitted that losing my financial support had been a wake-up call. She was learning to budget for the first time in her adult life and discovering that hard work brought its own satisfaction. Tyler took longest to come around. His pride had been severely wounded. Eventually, though, he reached out telling me he had found full-time work at a dental office and was saving for a used car. The experience had humbled him in ways that would serve him well in the long run. Slowly, carefully, I began rebuilding relationships with my family, this time with clear boundaries. When we got together now, conversations rarely centered on money. Instead, we discussed our lives, our interests, current events, things that normal families talk about. The dynamic had fundamentally shifted. I did offer financial guidance when asked. I helped my parents create a realistic budget based on their actual income. I showed Amanda how to apply for scholarships and student loans. I assisted Tyler in finding affordable transportation options. But I made it clear that my role was to provide information and emotional support, not bank transfers. Over time, something remarkable happened. My parents discovered they could actually manage on their own with some lifestyle adjustments. Amanda found satisfaction in earning her own way through school. Tyler developed a work ethic he had previously lacked, and I experienced the joy of having authentic relationships with my family rather than transactional ones. Today, nearly a year after cutting off financial support, my relationship with my family is more genuine than it has been since I landed that first tech job. We still have occasional tense moments when old patterns threaten to resurface, but the foundation has shifted. The most important lesson I learned through this painful journey is that true generosity means helping people in ways that foster independence and dignity, not dependency and entitlement. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for those we love is to stop enabling harmful patterns, even when that temporarily causes pain. I also learned that self-respect is not selfishness. By reclaiming my financial autonomy, I was finally able to build the secure future I had worked so hard for, while still maintaining loving, though redefined relationships with my family. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision about financially supporting family members? What boundaries have you set in your own relationships? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And if you know someone who might be struggling with similar family dynamics, share this video with them. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, sometimes the hardest choices lead to the healthiest relationships.